Yeah, good morning, students, and thank you for being here. We are going to do Julius Caesar Act 1, Scene 1. And before the scene begins, what are the things that happen? Because if you don't understand that and you jump straight into the play, you don't understand the context. The context is the background of what has happened. The first thing we need to understand over here is triumvirate. Okay, the word over here is triumvirate. Triumvirate basically means three rulers, co-rulers. So the three co-rulers of Rome, they were of course Crassus, Julius Caesar, and Pompey. Okay, so this is Crassus, Julius Caesar, and Pompey. And these were the three rulers, and of course Crassus, he was killed in the Battle of Parthia. This was a battle between Crassus and Pompey. And then of course Pompey also, there was a civil war between Pompey and Julius Caesar. It was a struggle for power in which Pompey also was killed, and then later on Julius Caesar defeats his sons in the Battle of Munda. So these are the sons of Pompey. Now what happens is Caesar is the absolute monarch. At this juncture we have only Caesar. He is the absolute leader. And because of that, you see in the Roman system, the Roman governance, the people were governed by senators, right? So that was the parliament. Just like we have MPs over here, we had senators over there, and cabinet ministers, they are also senators. So the senators did not like this. The public loved it, right? So you see, the senators, they did not like it. The public, they loved it, right? And then you have somebody known as the tribunes. The tribunes basically are like mayors, right? So they are elected by the people, but they are very powerful. And they protect the people from the senators so that the senators do not bring rules or regulations that harm the citizens. So this is the work of the tribunes. And you're going to meet the tribunes right now. The first people you will meet is the tribunes and the normal people, right? So again, I just want to show you, this is known as the Senate House, the place where the parliament is. These are how the senators look. And this is the third of the tribunes. Now, a tribune is an elected Roman official whose job is to protect the rights and interests of the common people. So therefore, they will always interfere if they see the common people doing something wrong. And right now, the problem with the common people is that they love Caesar a lot, right? And the tribunes feel that this will empower Caesar a little more, and Caesar will become a great dictator, and then he will crush everyone. So the first scene begins, and we have Marullus and Flavius over here. Right. So you've got Flavius over here, and you've got Marullus over here. Yeah. Each one they've entered on the stage. You've got two main characters. One is the carpenter and the cobbler. There's a huge crowd, but among the crowd, the two speaking characters from the people are the carpenter and the cobbler. The carpenter is a very docile person. Docile means very calm person, but the cobbler is a leader, right? And you will see how they react. Enters the person who opens the scene. The person first to speak is Flavius. His emotion is angry. So the play begins with anger. He says, "Hence home, you idle creatures." Got it? He says, "Hence" means get back home, you idle creatures. Who are the idle creatures? The common people. So he's calling the common people idle creatures. Get you home. Is this a holiday? And the first question that he asks is it a holiday? What, know you not? He says, do you not know? Being mechanical means being laborers, being workers. You ought not walk upon a laboring day without the sign of your profession. That means you ought not means you're not allowed to walk. You're not allowed to walk in the streets of Rome. You ought not walk on the streets of Rome upon a laboring day. Laboring day means a day where it's a working day, a day that you should be working, without the sign. The sign over here means The word sign over here basically means without the uniform that you're supposed to wear of your profession. Speak, what trade art thou? So he speaks to the first person and he says, what is your trade? Now the person that he speaks first to is the carpenter. And the carpenter gives a proper reply. The carpenter is giving a proper reply. And the carpenter says, why sir a carpenter? He says, sir, I am a carpenter. Marilyn says, okay, if you're a carpenter, then where is your leather apron? You should be wearing a leather apron. And you should have a rule. Correct? You know what is a leather apron? An apron that you wear, it's out of leather. And then a rule. Rule is a measuring rod. Where is thy rule? This is the two instruments that a carpenter must have. What does thou with the best apparel on? He says, and what are you doing with your best apparel? Apparel is clothes. You, sir, what trade are you? And now this is Marilyn speaking. Marilyn asks the second person, what is your trade? That means you tell me, what kind of a skill do you have? What is your trade? Truly, sir, in respect of a fine workman. So he over here says, sir, in respect of a fine workman, I am but as you would say a cobbler. He says, you know, I am actually a cobbler. Now basically if you look at this word over here, the word over here is pun. Pun means to play on words. And what is the pun over here? He is telling him, you can call me a cobbler. So he says, in respect. Respect means in comparison. Respect means in comparison of a fine workman. That means a skilled worker, a skilled laborer. I am but, he says, you would call me a cobbler. Now there are two meanings of cobblers. One is an ordinary laborer. The second meaning of the word cobbler is a person who mends shoes. But what trade art thou? And Marilyn is furious. Furious means very angry. He says, what is your actual trade? What is your business? Are you a mender of shoes? Or are you basically means, are you a person who mends shoes? Or are you just an ordinary laborer? You know, a person who would carry goods from one place to another, be a helper, etc. Answer me directly. Give me a direct answer. A trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience. He says, the trade I have, that means the work I do, I think I can do it with a safe conscience. Safe conscience means without feeling guilty, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. He says, you know, I am a mender of bad souls. Now, the meaning of the word souls also has two meanings. I'm sure you can have a look at it over here and see. Right? The two meanings of souls. One is the soul of a feet, and second is the soul of a man. And Marilyn says, again tells him, what trade art thou? Because Marilyn cannot understand him. So Marilyn is asking him, what is your trade, you knave? Knave is foolish person. You naughty knave. You correct? He says, you foolish knave. Again, a person who's being mischievous and foolish. He says, what is your trade? And then the cobbler says, I beseech you, sir. Beseech is I request you. I request you. I beseech is I request you, sir. Be not out with me. Underline the word out. Out again is a pun. Pun means a play on words. Out has two meanings. Angry, and it also means something that is broken or torn. He says, sir, be not out with me, yet if you be out. He says, but if you are out. Out means if your shoe needs repairing, I can mend you. Mend you means I can mend your shoes. So the way he speaks it is he's creating a lot of confusion in his words. He says, sir, be not angry with me, but if your shoes need repairing, I will mend it. What meanest thou? And Marilyn is very angry. He says, what do you mean thou? Thou means you. He says, what meanest? He says, what do you mean by that? Mend me? He says, are you going to mend me? Mend me means repair me. Make me all right. Thou saucy. Saucy means you rude person. He says, you saucy person. Okay, you saucy fellow. Why, sir? Cobble you. The cobbler says, no, sir. Actually, I want to say I will cobble you. Cobble you means repair your shoes. Okay? Art thou a cobbler? Now Flavius says, are you not a cobbler? Art thou? Are you? Yes, sir. Got it? So the cobbler says, truly, sir, all I live by is with the all. Now you can see I've put the all for you over here, right? This instrument is the all. So he says, I live with the all. This is an instrument basically to stitch leather. Got it? It is to stitch leather. So he says, I live with the all. I meddle with no tradesman's matter. That means I'm not a businessman. Meddlement means I do not do the work of a businessman. I meddle with no tradesman's matter. Sorry, over here. Tradesman is businessman's work. No woman's matter. Neither do I do women's jobs. Maybe cooking, sewing, etc. But with all means with everyone. But with everyone, I am indeed a surgeon to old shoes. He says, I am a doctor of old shoes. He says, I am a doctor to old shoes. When they are in great danger, that means when the shoes need repairing, I recover them. I make them all right. As proper men, he says, as gentlemen, or people who have trod means walked upon, neat's leather, neat is of course cow's leather, have gone upon my handiwork. He says, many people have used my handiwork. He seems to be a very popular um, cobbler. He seems to be a very popular cobbler, and that is why he says, most people have used my handiwork. Right? So we find over here, trod basically means walk. But wherefore art not in thy shop today? And Flavius is angry with him. Flavius says, but why are you not in your shop today? Why dost thou lead these men in the street? He says, and why are you leading these men? Why are you leading these men in the street today? What is your motive to lead these people in the street today? Got it? So he's already considering the cobbler to be a leader. He says, you are the leader and you're taking these men in the street today. Truly, sir, to wear out their shoes. Now, the cobbler jokes. This is a joke. I hope you understand. This is known as humor. It is known as a joke. To wear out their shoes. Wear out means to make them use their shoes and spoil their shoes. To get myself more work. He says when they walk, they will damage their shoes, and when they damage their shoes, I will get more work in repairing them. But indeed is again, he says actually. So now he's become serious. First he was joking, now he's serious. We make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph. He says we are making a holiday because we want to see Julius Caesar returning and to rejoice. Rejoice is to celebrate his triumph. Triumph is his victory. But there was no victory actually. It was a civil war in which I told you that Julius Caesar had fought against the sons of Pompey and had killed them and defeated them. So there was no real war. It was a civil war. And Madness says, wherefore rejoice? He says, why do you want to rejoice? He says, wherefore rejoice? He says, why do you want to rejoice? What conquest brings he home? He says, who has he conquered and is he bringing home? You see, in the Roman culture, it was usually when you went on a war, you not only brought all, you plundered the place and bought gold and silver from there, but you also took prominent people like kings and princes, right? And these were known as the conquest or the tributaries. And why did you bring them over here? You brought them over here so that when the kingdom asks for them back, so you can give them back to the kingdom in exchange for money. And that was known as tribute, right? So he says, and what tributaries follow him to Rome? He said, what are these tributaries that are following him to Rome? So who are the conquered princes? Tributaries means conquered princes and kings are coming with him to Rome. To grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels. He says to respect, got it? To respect, to grace, that means to respect, to honor. The in captive bonds means in chains on his chariot wheels. So he says when his chariot comes, they will be chained to it. You blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things. Very important. This has come in the ICSE board many times. What does Marullus call the commoners? What does Marullus call the plebeians? Any question. And then you have to say number one, blocks, stones, worse than senseless things. He calls them three names. He calls them blocks. He calls them stones. Blocks are like pieces of wood. Stones, and worse than, he said, you're even worse than senseless things. Senseless things means objects. But you're worse than that. You hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome. The fourth thing is, he says, you are a hard-hearted people. Number 5, you're the cruel people of Rome. So 5 things is what he calls them. So he calls them 5 things, all right? You hard hearts, you cruel men of Rome. Knew you not Pompey? He says, have you forgotten Pompey? Now he reminds them about the Pompey who was also one of the triumvirates. Many and often have you climbed on your walls and battlements. He says, many times and very often you've climbed on your walls and battlements, towers, windows, chimneys. So where have they climbed? Walls, battlements. Battlements are basically when you have a fort, and on top of the fort you usually have places like this. These are known as the battlement. Correct? Protections from where they can shoot. So he says, you climbed up on the walls and on the battlements of a fort. Got it? I hope many of you have seen the Red Fort and you know about the Agra Fort, right? So there you have battlements on top. To towers and chimneys, he says, you've also climbed to towers and to chimneys and to windows. Your infants in your arms, and you've been carrying your infants in your arms, and they have sat the livelong day with patient expectations. And the entire day you waited. You waited what? Waited for Pompey patiently to see great Pompey pass. And just why? Because you wanted to see Pompey pass the streets of Rome. And when you saw his chariot but appear, he said, the minute you saw his chariot appear, whose chariot appear? Pompey's chariot appear. You made a universal sound. A universal sound means a loud sound you made. The Tiber trembled underneath, and your shout was so loud that the river Tiber, it trembled. Trembled basically means it began to shake underneath its shore, underneath its bank, to hear the replication of your sound. He says to hear the replication. Replication is the echo of your sound. Got it? Replication is echo. So he says the echo. Echo. Got it? The echo of your sound. Made in a concave claves. He says when it is made in the concave shore, that means the hollow shores. So this again is a hyperbole. I hope you all know what a hyperbole is. Hyperbole. That means an exaggeration. The Tiber actually would not shake, right? But he's saying the way you would shout, it seemed that the Tiber would shake, the river Tiber would shake. And now do you put on your best clothes? He says now you're wearing your best clothes. You cull out. Cull out means you forcibly taken a holiday. You cull out a holiday and do strew flowers, and you're throwing flowers on his way who comes in triumph over Pompey's pride. And you're throwing flowers for Julius Caesar, who's coming in triumph. Triumph means victory over the sons of Pompey. Be gone. Now what is the instruction? All right. So what is the instruction he's giving them? Number 1, be gone. Number 2, run to your houses. He says first, go away from here. Go to your houses. Third is, fall on your knees. He says, fall down on your knees. Number 4, pray to the gods. Pray to the gods to do what? To interim. Interim is to stop the plague. You know what is a plague? A widespread disease. Again, what instruction does he give them? Be gone means go away. Number 2, run to your houses. Number 3, fall upon your knees. Number 4, pray to the gods. To interim. Interim is to stop the plague. That needs must light on this ingratitude. He says that needs means that definitely will fall on people who are so ungrateful. And now Flavius says, go, good countrymen. Now Flavius is a little mild. He says, go, countrymen. And for this mistake, this fault means for this mistake. What was the mistake? That they were celebrating Got it? They were celebrating the victory of Julius Caesar, wherein Julius Caesar had killed the sons of Pompey. Assemble all the poor men of your sort. He says, call all the poor people of your type. Draw them to the Tiber's bank. He says, ask them to come to the river Tiber and weep with tears and let them cry into the channel. Channel means into the river. Till the lower stream, he says, till the lower stream. Do kiss. Kiss means touches the exalted shores. That means it comes to the brim, to the top. That means the river starts flooding. Again, this is, I told you, a hyperbole. Right? So it can never happen that you cry so much that the river floods. But he says, I want you all to cry so much that the river floods. Right? And with this, they all leave. The carpenter, the cobbler, and all the commoners. Now only two are left, Flavius and Magnus. Flavius says, see where the basest metal be not moved. He says, you can see how the ordinary people are not influenced. That means even the ordinary people, and what does he call them? Flavius calls them the basest metals. He says these are the basest metals. Be not moved. He says even they are influenced. They vanishes, they've gone away. Tongue-tied. Tongue-tied means unable to speak. Why? Because they are guilty. Go you down this way towards the capital. Now he says that they are standing over here and he says, I want you to go this way towards the capital. I will go to the next way. Go you down this way, that way to the capital. This way will I. He says, you go that way. I will go this way. Disrobe the images. And if you see any images of Caesar, on the way, remove the images of Caesar, remove the decoration from them. If you do find them decked with ceremony, he says, if you find that they are decorated for the feast of Lupercal, for the welcome of Caesar, maybe do so. You know it is the feast of Lupercal. So Magnus says, maybe do so because don't you know that today is the feast of Lupercal? Now the feast of Lupercal was a very important feast. It was a very important feast. It was the festive feast, the feast of fertility. We call it the feast of fertility. The feast of fertility. Basically almost like Diwali type where the people really enjoyed themselves. It was celebrating new fruit, new harvest, everything. Got it? So it was a big celebration. Flavius says, it is no matter. He says, never mind, let no image be hung with Caesar's trophy. He says, I do not want that any image should be there with Caesar's trophy. I'll go and drive about the vulgar. He says, don't worry because I'm going to go and drive about the vulgars. Vulgar again is another word for the common people. So the board will ask, what other words have been used for the common people by Flavius? So you should know what Flavius said and what Magnus said. Do so you too, where you perceive them thick. He says, and you also, whenever you find the common people in a group, send them away. These growing feathers, what are these? The popularity of the people are like the growing feathers plucked from Caesar's wings. He says, we need to pluck them from Caesar's wings. So he is comparing Caesar to a falcon. Got it? He is comparing Caesar to a falcon. What figure of speech is this? You all know that. It is a metaphor. Got it? So he says these growing feathers plucked from Caesar's wings will make him fly an ordinary pitch. He says if you remove these feathers, that means remove the popularity of Caesar, Caesar will then move in an ordinary manner. Who else? He says otherwise. Who else means otherwise will soar. Soar means will fly. Soar over here means will fly above the view of men. That means he will fly much above us, the people, and keep us all in servile fearfulness. He said we all will become like slaves, fearful and like slaves. Great. With this we end Act 1, Scene 1. In case there's any question you have or any problems, please do ask me and I'm sure I'll be able to help you. Right? You can